All right. Good evening, Ms. McCray. I got a couple questions I want to ask you. I know that this is our first session, and I'm recording. So in order for me to record you, I need to ask if I have your permission,
Okay.
and if so, can you sign the consent form so that we don't have any issues going forward?
Hold on to those for a second. Your friend's right back here in the way. Let me go grab the safe nurse.
All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to start our session.
Okay.
The safe nurse? I didn't get your name. Where's her office?
Through that door.
How do I
Yeah.
Okay. So I understand that you came in because you have a history of substance use, and I want to ask you a couple questions to see, kind of gauge what's been going on, what started it, get some some information so that we can see how we can proceed going forward.
Okay.
All right. So I need could you give me your full name?
Gina, Gena, Bowman McCray, BOWMAN, hyphen MCCRAY.
Okay. All right, Miss McCray. How old are you?
I'm 50.
And I know that you were recommended to me, but is there any other issues or concerns that brought you to me, like were you court ordered or anything of that
Not court ordered, but I just feel like it's time to get my life back on track.
nature? Okay. So when you say get your life back on track, what caused that? What's your drug of choice?
Well, it started off with alcohol, and then in the later years, I started experimenting with cocaine, crack cocaine, and at the end, it's heroin.
Okay. Okay. So would you say that? So basically, it was like an escalation.
Yes.
So was the alcohol? Was it recreational use?
Well, at the beginning, it was recreational.
Okay.
But I feel like I got to a point where I needed it. Like I had shakes. I couldn't function unless I had a drink, and that was, at the beginning when I started off with the alcohol.
Okay. Wow. That's. So you started off with alcohol. You said you got to the point where you were having the shakes, or you were basically like, if you didn't have the alcohol, you were going through withdrawal.
Yes.
Okay. So as you escalated to the crack and the heroin, was it a combination of the three that you did together, or just one?
Basically, okay, so it started with the alcohol, then it was when I got into being curious about crack cocaine.
Okay.
I was still drinking, but not as much.
Okay.
It was like a evening out type of thing for me. Like when I started smoking crack, it was like it was a feeling that I'd never felt before.
Okay.
And so I gradually started doing it whenever I could, And so the alcohol, when I feel like I did too much crack cocaine, the alcohol would kind of help me like balance it out.
So like when you had that like overly like
Stimulated.
stimulated feeling, so you bring the
And I would
alcohol.
go and
bring
grab a
it
drink.
down. Okay. Do you have a history of mental health?
Depression.
Depression. Okay. How long ago were you diagnosed with that?
Back in 2009.
Okay, 2009. Were you seeking treatment for that?
I sought treatment, and I had a therapist for maybe about all the way up until 2012, 13. And I eventually just stopped seeing the therapist.
Okay.
And so after, when I stopped seeing my therapist, it was like the alcohol was lessened, but the crack picked up, and I was introduced to heroin, and so I dropped off the alcohol, and I just focused on the crack cocaine and the heroin. The heroin was similar to what the alcohol did when I smoked too much crack, like a leveling out type of thing. I was also told then that, by people who noticed that I was doing the heroin, like, you don't want it, this is not something you want to do or whatever, but they were doing it, so I'm like, well, why are you going to tell me not to do it, And so maybe like after less than a week, I was like, I needed that too. And so I put myself in a situation where when I did have money, you going to either buy the crack or you going to buy the heroin. And there were times that I tried to like distribute my money evenly, or say, look, well, you get you some crack today and get you some heroin, you save your money for the heroin tomorrow. But the crack had such a hold on my focus that the money that I had for the heroin that I said I was going to save in the morning when I start feeling ill and sick, it was like burning a hole in my pocket because I want some more crack.
So it was like it was a need that was greater than what you were able to. Okay.
Yeah, and so then it got to the point where, okay, buy your heroin tonight and just hold it for tomorrow, and just smoke your little crack. Just do one of your pills of heroin and then save that one for the morning. Then that way you can function. I was trying to come up with ways to like use correctly, which makes no sense. But
nothing comes of it. Right.
I would do that, and then after I smoke my crack, and then do that one pill or dope. I think the feeling I enjoyed so much that before morning came, I done already did the one that I saved. And then when the morning came, it's like feeling like crap.
Right, because you had to start the process all over again.
Yeah.
How old were you the first time you used?
So are you saying anything or
any type of mind altering?
Okay,
substance.
so when I turned 16, my uncle gave me my first drink. It was Jack Daniels. I would not forget. It was my 16th birthday. And it was over a decade before I could like get a handle on it. And I wouldn't even say I got a handle on it because I continued to drink even then. But I've learned that I'm not a social drinker because when I drank towards the end, I became violent. I became just not a good person. And I thought that incorporating other drugs would help me with that too, be a little nicer. So I noticed with the heroin, I was just such a nice person. With the crack, I was just paranoid, nervous most of the time. Didn't want to move, didn't want to do anything. But with the heroin, it was all love, talk, clean, cook anything, and do it in a manner where I thought nobody knew, but they did.
Right. Do you believe that when you stopped seeing your therapist, that your your usage increased, or and were you compensating for you not seeing your therapist?
I think when I stopped because I felt like, oh, you got it now, you don't need them. After a certain amount of time, maybe like even up to maybe like 8 months, between 8 months to a year after stop seeing them, it was like, oh, you're doing all right. But it was like it crept up on me again, like the addiction, and I think it just went through the roof after that, And that at that point, I didn't know how to stop it on my own anyway.
Was it any? Did you have any significant triggers?
Abandonment was one. I feel like I'm not going to say that I was left behind in my life, but I feel like a lot of times that I didn't fit in because of the way I thought or the way that I looked at things. Even though I never expressed a lot of the ways that I thought to people or some of the stuff, I just always never felt like I actually fit in anywhere. Right. And that's like my mother's side, my father's side. My mother's side, I would say, lean a little bit more towards because my mother and my father were addicts as well. Although we had addicts on my father's side of the family and my mother's, besides the two of them, I think that because I was with my mother, that I got to see more of her side of the family and everything that they went through or lived through. So I don't know, I just felt like I never knew what my place was on either side. So it was like, do you pretend? Do you act like you're like them, or do you just continue to be yourself? And because I have a lot of loud family members, both sides. When I was growing up, I was always the quiet, shy one.
Right.
But I think after experiencing the alcohol, the alcohol made me speak my mind and say the stuff that I always wanted to say, and I don't know, it's weird, but when I did the heroin, it was like, you are a good person. This is who you are when you're not, speaking your mind with the alcohol. But I don't know, it was just so confusing. And I think that a lot of times I can get misconstrued with being at peace and being bored, because I always think that something got to be going on.
Right.
And that's not, now I'm learning that that's not necessarily true.
So you would say that your issues with the abandonment and the fact that started you to using, and along with the fact you said that your parents were addicts as well.
So I've seen a lot of it.
Right. So you were exposed to it.
And, very young age.
Okay.
And it looked like they were having fun all the time. Like, it was always, I always heard laughter. I always heard, but I then associated that laughter with what they were doing. They were drinking, they was partying. So, and I couldn't wait until I was old enough to do some of that stuff.
Right.
We snuck the little cups and all of that they left the night before everybody knocked out.
Right.
And they still got a little bit of beer in a cup or something like that. But, it wasn't until I actually turned 16 that I really had my first drink.
How many children do you have?
I have 7.
Okay. Do you think that your usage affected your quality of life or your interaction with the kids?
Yes, I will. My kids were I think, more disappointed that I went down that path, because if I was nothing else, I was strong for them, you know.
Okay.
And they probably felt like mommy could do anything.
Right.
And like, how could, you know, the thing with them was probably like, how could you let something take control of you like that? We done seen you do so much, you know, and you just wasting away, you know. So, yeah, I know it had a tremendous effect on my children.
What's the longest amount of cleaning time you had?
18 months.
So, all right. I want to kind of switch gears. I want to, because we can talk about a lot of stuff, and I don't want everything to be seem negative, right? So, can you tell me 3 things that you like about yourself?
I like to think I'm pretty smart.
Okay.
Another thing is that I think I'm a great cook. And another thing is, I love with my whole heart.
All right. So outside of your mother and your father, do you believe that there were any other issues with addiction in your family? So, because a lot of times people can say it's genetic, where it's passed down. My grandfather was, grandfather was a drunk.
I've seen it, you know, throughout my entire family. I would say that out of, let's just give an example, like out of my mother's children, which was 7 of them, out of that 7, I would say 2 of them were not addicts.
Okay.
My father's side, I would say maybe half of them were.
Okay.
So I even saw, like, my mother's father, even him, when he would come from Virginia to see us, you know, I always associated a lot of that with seeing him with the smell of alcohol, because, you know, he was fun, he was good to us, but I always, you know, he always had a beer or he always had a drink, you know.
Understand.
So yeah, that's like kind of in the family type of thing.
Right. You know, we covered a lot. You know, I don't want to feel like we gotta rush everything and put everything into one session. So what we, you know, with the history of abuse in your family, the amount of time that you were using, and you have had a significant amount of clean time before, you know, and you know what your triggers are. We're going to try to find some coping mechanisms for you know, going forward. That's something that I think will help. You know, we want to build off of the positive.
Okay.
We're not going to ignore the negative.
Okay.
Because that is a part of who you are, you know. But we want to build this foundation so that it can be strong and that we can progress forward. So in the next session, that's what we're going to lead off with. Because I really like that you know, you're smart, and you love cooking, you know what I'm saying, and you're a loving person in general. And part of that building yourself is to not allow you to be taken advantage of, because then that can circle back to if say if you've been taken advantage of, you expect something from one individual, and then it falls through, then you'll feel abandoned again.
Okay.
So we're going to, start to work on the little things. The home assignment that I'm going to give you for the week is name some things that you feel that you can, as and of yourself, start to better, that you can improve upon.
Okay.
And we'll start to incorporate that into what we're doing.
Okay.
And what we're going on in our next session. I appreciate you sharing with me, because a lot of times the first sessions don't go this well.
Yeah. I'm sure.
And it may still be more that we have to, a couple other layers to pull back. But we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. And I appreciate you allowing me to record you and record our session, and look forward to next week.
Okay. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Yeah.